This is a coping mechanism podcast.
This is a coping mechanism podcast.
This is a coping mechanism podcast.
Greetings, one and all, and welcome to another exciting episode of This is a Coping Mechanism podcast. I am one of your hosts, and back from the past, it's Samurai Bessie.
I know you guys missed me. What is up?
I bet they did. The last episode was weird, and I'm assuming not great.
Join us as we cope with things through the satire life of ours with movies, media, mysteries, and more. Sorry, it's been a minute.
It's fine. It's so glad to have you back.
So glad to have you back.
So glad. It's, if I had to say a mood, it's what is it? Is it coding that they say? It's coding glad.
Never heard of it. Called? Never heard of it.
You're giving glad.
You're giving glad. I'm giving glad, or you're giving glad? Yes.
I don't actually know the lingo enough to be accurate in my assessment.
This is how we're getting old, right?
You see, all these newfangled folks who are getting old now, I got old whenever I was like 6. And, I was the sad kid who, all at family gatherings, they'd be like, he has an old.
Oh, so that means we traumatized
Yeah.
him, but it's okay.
He had to grow up real quick, and the child in him died
Yeah, exactly.
real fast. So we just call it an old soul, and we, that's how we tell ourselves that he's gonna be okay.
That's like the perfect Southern charm. That's hilarious.
Oh, trust me. I've been hearing that accent for most of my life.
That's like when my mom or anyone in my life who was an adult when I was a child, they're like, you were such an easy kid, Missy. And I'm like, yeah, I had to be that way. I just blended into the background.
I know, I'm sure we've talked about on the show before, but like, my mother's side of the family, for what experience I had with them, they were legit Southern aristocrats.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how they talk.
sound.
Yeah, that's how
they sound. It was just too good. I loved it.
We're like, wow, you look so comfortable in that.
Comfortable.
I wish I had the confidence to be that comfortable all the time.
In public.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. And then you walk away and they're like, that
Can you
stupid,
move?
ugly bitch. What is she wearing?
You're like, bless her heart.
She thinks she looks good.
Yeah, she does. She does. They call them the alternative crowd. Sounds like they need some Jesus.
Yes, exactly. Oh my god, no, literally. They're just on a wholly different planet
I
than
know.
the rest of us.
Which
I'm sure is nice in its own way, but no thank you. I'll be over there with the alternatives.
Right? Like, where did that come from?
Speaking of other planets.
Oh my god, yes.
We told y'all 2 episodes ago we would be getting into Scavengers Reign.
Yes.
And we have, and we are. Okay?
Yep. I actually don't remember. I remember on the end of the
That's probably like a month ago.
Yeah. The episode that
4
I
weeks.
recorded, my interstitial, my solo career. I think
you can do it. You have a radio voice.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Howdy out there, you beautiful people. I had this college professor, and I used to love it every time he came in. He was Middle Eastern, and he was an economics professor, and he would come in shaking his hands like, what's his name? The I'm not a crook president. And he would come into every class doing that, wearing a suit, and be like, "Hello, beautiful people," and I adored that.
I love
and I was
that.
like, "Oh man, I'm gonna do that for the rest
Feel
of my
like
damn
that's
life."
my new bit.
Right. Anyway, but yeah, I think I said I didn't know the schedule, but I'm pretty sure I was
Yeah.
like, okay, we're doing Scavengers Reign. I think
Yes.
we got a schedule.
Yeah. What we're doing.
So I hope y'all watched it. we're gonna be talking about it.
Exactly. We gave you plenty of time to catch up.
Yeah.
And I will just say off the bat, it's amazing.
I know, right?
It was so beautiful.
It's beautifully like gut wrenching.
Yeah, it just captures you. You're just like scared of like this planet. Okay, for guys who haven't watched it, I'm gonna give you a little synopsis, okay? So no.
Okay, that's fine. So the gist of it is, in the future there is
It's an animated show.
Yeah, it's an animated show, and
created by Joseph Bennett and Charles Hutner.
Yeah, from the now.
Oh, it literally is. The crew of a damaged deep space freighter are stranded on a beautiful but dangerous planet. That's all actually the synopsis gives you.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It just wasn't long enough that I'm like, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah, and then the story primarily focuses around really
Four. I count the planet.
Okay.
Because we do get a lot of it.
That is true. Then its story is,
yeah.
especially later, that story kind of comes to fruition through
full circle.
The robot, Levi.
Levi.
You know, longtime listeners might be interested to know I have a character cheat sheet right here, so I can actually know the names of things.
Yeah, we follow all these different characters or people they're paired up with together from this space freight that has crashed, and all their different experiences and perspectives on like coping with being in this new environment that's nurturing but also can kill you.
Yeah.
So it's both.
It's, you know, and I don't know what is going on through the heads. It's like these creators and animators, like how they were able to like capture Alien, but in such a
beautiful way.
Yeah. But in such like a way that is so
like intriguing.
Yeah, no, like definition of the word. Like when you think of an alien, you know,
you think of the regular schmegular.
Yeah, maybe like a little gray dude, green
skinny.
Dude. Maybe the alien movies where you're like, oh, it's still like
this big
still got arms and legs,
thing.
and you know it's relatively humanoid. This shit is like
nothing of that.
Alien,
like the animals there look alien. Like they're not making it like our world but a little different. It's like its own thing, its own universe.
I love how all of it seems like they flush it out in the that's I think how the planet has its own character, because nothing is ever animated or done for no reason.
No, it's all intentional.
Everything is connected, everything clear.
Every animal, plant, being, just anything living on that planet has a purpose.
Yeah, and they're designed and art is built around that purpose. And like you'd be like, oh, that thing looks weird, and then you may just see it in the background. And then like using a weird thing that it had drawn on it for its purpose, and you're like, they thought to think of it?
Exactly. It was very intentional. And I think it's a good new perspective on, again, not us humans being like, I'm gonna conquer and take over this planet and use its resources and fuck it over. It's a very
like,
how do we
you're gonna be
adapt
lucky to
and
make
survive?
It tomorrow.
Exactly. Like it's a real survival and coping story or perspective on how much your environment affects you and how you either
can adapt
to it or you fall
kind of succumb to it.
Succumb to it is the word, yeah. And obviously that's not only relatable in real life, but again done in an animation form with so many different storylines that all come together at the end. You're just like, this is so beautiful and scary, but beautiful.
I love how they like kind of, because each of the stories that they follow is kind of the three big human, like how we cope to survive.
Yeah.
And it's like you have the one story that is actually adapting to the environment.
It's like coexisting, it's learning. We have like hostile, non-hostile.
Yeah, it's trying to gather as much information as possible to
Yeah.
use it to your advantage, but still survive.
Right. What will your relationship look like to this unknown
Yeah. And then
everything?
that was Sam, the captain, and Ursula, who
Yes.
I think she was a botanist, but she was one of the scientists on the ship.
Yes. They had the most, like, I feel like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, interest in learning.
Yeah.
And, like, being like, how do we do what this planet does to survive?
Exactly. How
Like, what is all the other animals and living beings doing? That's what we need to do. They learn what they can eat, what they can't eat, how to survive in a storm, like going into those fucking little things in the water because it was protecting its babies, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, that shit is so cool. But they're about to die, like, every second.
I love how they just jump in, and it's like, you know,
you're like, what the fuck's happening?
There's
Why
no-
are they here?
yeah, there's no dialogue, but it's like the Sam and Ursula, and it's them cutting into that monster to like get the glow. It's like do the weird surgery thing to get the glowing balls.
Yes.
Just so they have like a flashlight.
And it's like, how
did you even think? How did you get there? And I love how they talk about how she is, you know, a scientist, and she, you know, and you can presume that she's been like experimenting, and they've been there for like months.
Yeah, a long time.
But you have to garner all that information yourself. They don't just tell you.
No.
It's like, well, I guess technically they tell you, but it's there. There's not like a big. They don't do like the classic
breakdown.
sci-fi exposition dump where they're like,
this was all because of this.
where it's like a radio transmission or like a voice log where they're like, Day 38
Yes.
on alien planet Narsos.
I'm about to die if anyone finds this.
If anyone finds this, just know that I'm going to talk to you for the next 8.5 minutes to tell you exactly how we got to this point and what's been going on.
And what you need to do to survive.
Yep, click. No, it's like these people.
It's like human resilience, like real human resilience or lack thereof or any of that.
That's the thing is you have them who are like actually coexisting with the environment. You have the
Levi and Ozzy.
Yeah, who they're the fighters. They're trying to.
She has a robot, which at first she's kind of like, you're just supposed to do XYZ, but even the robot is starting to adapt and learn and just get this kind of integration into the planet, and then she starts to care for it as another person or living thing with a conscience, not just a robot as a tool.
As a creature.
Yeah, and she starts to. I mean, to survive, in my personal opinion, whether it's on a fucking alien planet or in your house, you have to have someone. Like, someone or something gets you to, like, survive in those harsh environments. Like, being alone, you'll never live. Because we are not meant to survive by ourselves, you know? We need at least that one person or living thing, like, even homeless people with animals, that's what keeps them going. You have to have some companionship to survive.
Otherwise...
That's why they put prisoners in isolation, because they want you to go crazy and be fucked up, because we are not meant to be alone, which is what happens to Cayman.
Yeah, who, you know...
Who was a fucker before all this fuckery, but he was kind of like, alright.
in my character notes, I just have Cayman, piece of shit. Because, like, that's the thing, is it seems so intentional because they show you, like...
He's by himself. He crashed by himself.
He's...
locked in a space unit.
Yeah, he's isolated. He's going crazy. He's just, like,
he's
eating...
starving.
Yeah, trying, like, rationing and, like... And he's going crazy, and you feel for this guy because, like... Ozzy has Levi the robot, so she has some...
Ursula and Sam have each other.
Yeah.
So he's
they're
just
the
by
fighters.
himself. Yeah.
You know, the captain and Ursula they're the go with the flow.
They're learning.
And then this dude is just alone, going crazy.
He's stuck in this ship, and you can see the tally marks. And it's so that's like the only instance we get of like how long have they been there. When you see this wall of tally marks he's scratched, while the other characters have got to like learn their environment, he has no idea what's out there. He is stuck inside with a tiny little window.
Right, and he's just looking out screaming. And then you feel bad for him.
Yes.
Because you're like, whoa, he's got it the worst. And then the more you watch the show, you're like, you kind of, I mean, I don't know if you deserve that, but shit, you deserve something bad.
Because then this creature from the planet kind of saw him and almost seeks him out. I don't know if it's like psychologically or mentally. But they morph into one, and he becomes this awful, big creature that's like terrorizing everything.
Yeah, I think
Like, what was your perspective on like what that creature was to him or for him?
so. In my eyes,
Because everyone else didn't have that, you know. They had
yeah,
an actual, more
uh,
conscious being to cope with.
so in you know, for if you didn't watch the show,
Yeah.
the way that these alien creatures seem to work is that it had some weird like psychokinesis abilities where it would put in simple thoughts to predators to be like, you feel good. I attributed like, hey, we're gonna give you like, it's like a psychoactive drug,
Yeah.
and then in return they would kill something and feed it to these
Yes.
creatures, and the littlest weakest one who couldn't find anything to like
Offer.
to offer or to eat, he finds Cayman.
And he breaks him out of that spaceship.
Yeah, and then he has, because I'm assuming since as a human he has a more advanced
Yeah.
cognitive, he gives him all these memories, like his wife and joy and all this stuff, and he's like, all right.
Because that's what keeps you going is
Yeah.
hope or like those small memories.
So he gives him all that hope, and he's like, all right, feed me. Then he's like, as a human, humans are predators, and
Yep.
we are very good at killing and hunting. And then he goes, okay, I want to feel that hope. I want to feel those feelings.
Those good memories.
I've been suffering for so long, and then
Yeah.
he just keeps killing to feed. It's almost like
It's just like what we talk about. Like if you weren't fed from a silver spoon, you'll lick from a knife.
yeah,
Kind of thing. And that's what he was doing. If this little creature was giving him that little bit he needed, he was going to do anything for it.
Yeah,
And he did.
it was like a.
And the creature just fucking get bigger and bigger, and I'm like, oh, fuck.
It was, honestly, it's just showing the excess of capitalism and working on these folks getting fat on the backs of suffering those, just giving them the little bits they
little
need
bit
to
you
survive.
And they'll do anything for you.
And then they'll be like, no. And then when it comes to it, they'll be like, I got your back. I'll nuke 'em. Fuck it."
Exactly. Because Levi and Ozzy are focused on the surviving
Yeah.
and using Levi as a tool, but also becoming bonded emotionally. And then Ursula and Sam, natural leaders, caretakers, learners. They're like, we can adapt and survive. And then Cayman is just all psychological.
Yeah.
Like, you really see how desperate he is for rescue, and he starts to almost have this, like, religious experience with that thing, almost like he worships it in a weird way, or, like, worships some ecosystem to, like, I don't know, it was so interesting to see, because reality went away for Cayman.
Yeah.
Like, he eventually was like so far removed from everything, he didn't even know what was going on.
To me, it was like he had been suffering alone for so long that, and you find out later that like kind of watches his wife die.
Yes.
He doesn't hold the door for her.
That made me think, bitch, you just deserve to die then.
Right? Like his story just kept getting worse and worse.
Yeah, he was a piece of shit.
Yeah, like,
and the planet is now shaping them into kind of what they are at heart, almost, or what they think they are.
And I think he just wanted that to feel peace in any way.
Yeah.
And it really felt like an allegory for like drug addiction.
It felt like a lot of different things, which was really nice.
And
Whether it's, like you said, psychological, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's capitalism, or like extreme environmental things, or all of it.
Yeah. The whole thing is just, it's all survival and how humans survive all of the, extreme situations.
Right.
And like,
which is what we all do with how we live and grow up. Like, people wonder how kids, like, we'll start from like the easiest ones. People maybe are more prone to empathy for, which is children growing up in horrible environments. We have to get them out. But then that usually ends for people when those kids become adults and they're like, well, get it together. And it's like, well, I had no tools to get
Yeah.
myself out of this. Or like even people in abusive marriages or anything of that nature. Well, why don't you just leave? Like, you become that like sick environment just like you become good in a good environment. Like, you are what you are fed in a way, psychologically, you know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's...
Which they don't show that a lot in, like, alien-type movies.
Yeah,
it's
right.
just conquer, take over.
We win.
We win, we abuse it. That's it, you know?
Yeah,
colonialism or whatever.
Yeah, it's... The Space Marines are coming!
Exactly.
You know, it's...
But it was a real perspective on, like, how people can get through things.
Right? And it's like, you could sub out this alien world.
Yes.
Or any kind of, like you said...
Environment.
Something most people know a lot of, you know, whether it be from stories or your own personal experience, kids growing up in like really abusive or households.
And they become exactly like their abusers, and it's this cycle that you keep doing forever.
Right? Like, and you can see this in the characters where like the Sam and Ursula, they were like they were the kids who were like, no, I'm gonna stay out of the way, give the, you know, bring the beer, you know, make sure, try to like do everything I can to, you know, like in the show, they're still gonna get hurt and there's still stuff's gonna happen.
But they're adapting.
Yeah, but
they're not fighting it.
They're gonna avoid the suffering as much as possible. Versus you have Levi and Ozzy, who Ozzy's like the rebellious fighter who's like, oh, you know, who's going toe to toe.
We gotta win. We gotta fucking get out of here. Let's.
She's getting hurt constantly, but she's, you know, like powering through.
Yeah.
And then you have Eamon, who just gets broken.
Succumbs.
Yeah, he succumbs, becomes broken. You know, he has to look for outside, you know, support through something very unhealthy and something very dangerous.
But it still brought him some type of comfort.
Yeah, and he survived because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you know, how are you surviving, you know, in your life? Is it through something dangerous, substance, or...
Yeah, how do you cope?
Is it an unhealthy relationship with an alien creature?
Because, like, I also think, like, people like you and I, or maybe more so you, that, like, everything you did have to go through as a kid, and a lot of people, like maybe me, would kind of look at you and be like, damn, how'd you turn out so okay?
I didn't.
But, like, you know, like, how did you cope in your environment? How would you say, like, I know we kind of talked about it, like, in our first episodes of, like, first coping, but, like, after watching this show and, like, how you cope with things now, like, the difference.
I think that was the thing, is I saw myself so much in all of this.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, and not just myself, but like, you know, like brothers too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I definitely was a lot of times, you know, whenever I was a kid, like trying to make everything smooth over.
The mediator.
And happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trying to mediate. And then, like, my older brother, he was a fighter. You know, he was...
Right, people don't get, you can be born in the same household with the same parent or caregivers or anyone that's in your environment, and everyone has a different experience and outcome. It's so fascinating.
And, like, my brother, my other older brother, as I talked about, turned to substances in order to cope. And, you know, as I grew up, I think I went through different things where, like, whenever I was younger, I was definitely trying to adapt because I was like, okay, this is normal.
Yeah.
It sucks, but it's normal.
Yeah.
I just have to deal with it. And then I'm constantly trying to think of tools on how to deal with it. And then...
And try to make up your own tools as a child when you're supposed to be giving tools. They're not going to be the same set of tools.
Yeah, it's
actually quite fascinating how our little baby child brains still to survive will make up those tools, like things you would like well, a kid wouldn't do that, and you're like, no, they would, because they're not even noticing they're doing it, but they have to survive. You know?
I actually got into I got into a bit of an argument with a it's like with an on again off again partner of mine.
Okay.
Because I was in an uncomfortable situation, and I won't go into details, but after it was over, I was like, Jesus, I was so uncomfortable. And I was like essentially being like, I don't want to be put in that position again. I was really uncomfortable.
Right.
And they were like, they got upset because they were like,
They're defensive.
no, they were like, I had no idea.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I should be able to read when you're uncomfortable. And I was like, don't worry. I've been practicing that my whole life.
Yeah.
You know,
To like have that poker face.
yeah, to be, you know, to put on the facade of like,
yeah. I'm okay.
everything's cool, man.
Yeah.
You having a good time? That's great. Anyway, you know, and to be able to
Yeah.
switch it on and off, and
Right.
you know,
So that's a coping mechanism you still use today.
oh yeah, 100%. And I think it's
Do you know ones that you have discarded?
yeah, there's some that those still pop up in my head,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
make a conscious choice not to.
Right.
Like, for some, it's to accommodate. I guess you would call it like accommodating things that I don't believe
Okay.
or don't respect. Or
So
am
you don't do
against.
that anymore.
Yeah. So
Okay.
now, like, I still have the thought of like, how can I accommodate this thing that's bad,
Yeah.
or this person to avoid confrontation,
Right.
difficulty, something.
Yeah.
And then I have to go, no, don't do that. You run in that space and go, well, that's not fucking right.
Right.
And, you know, and I think that came from later where whenever I got older, instead of learning to just adapt and deal, it was like, no, you need to also know.
Right. Physically.
You know, yeah, that too, but also,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
you need to learn how to fight with your mind, with your words, with your body.
Yeah.
And, you know, that I think was better for me as an adult than the other stuff was, because now I don't really. We've talked about it on the show before, I think, and I know we've talked about it together, with Alex, of like, I don't ever really feel in danger,
Right. Physically.
or like
In general.
in general, because I'm like, if someone tries to come at me with words or with their body or something, I'm like, nah, I'm pretty sure I'll be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For
So
sure.
I don't really get on edge
Yeah.
like that, because
Doesn't feel threatening.
yeah,
Anymore.
now I've you know, and I'm like, oh, I've been through worse. You
Right.
ain't coming close to the shit that's gone through me.
Yeah.
You're like, you know, and like you wanna put your hands up? Shit, you ain't even got a bat with nails in it. You ain't gonna rip a chunk off me. I've had that done. You ain't gonna
Yeah.
do nothing.
Right.
You're like, you're gonna call me fat? That's it.
Right.
That's all you got.
Yeah.
You ain't.
Yeah. So you have very metaphorically and probably real too thick skin.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. I think that, but that's the thing is now. I think there's some things that I didn't have the tools to
Right.
deal with, which is like, I never learned how to deal with knowing that I didn't learn until later in life that people who say they care about you aren't supposed to hurt you.
Right.
And now that I know that, I 100% know that and believe it. Someone do care about me, hurt me. Those are the only people who can hurt me now.
Right,
and
because you
whenever,
genuinely care about them.
and when it happens, it hurts so deep.
Yeah.
Now it cuts so far down.
Right.
And I'm like, I feel if I had gotten kind of a more evened lesson about this, maybe it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't grieve so much
Right.
of lost friendships,
Sure.
relationships,
Yeah.
stuff like that. I'd have a better understanding.
You wouldn't
I
take
don't-
it so personal.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a bad way to.
No, I think that's pretty accurate. Like, I think the same thing. Like, you could like people, if they wanted to say like, oh, Bessie's ugly, or she has a big nose, or her eyebrows are ugly, like those little comments people would kind of sprinkle in, you know, during like middle school and high school, I kind of would just be like, my dad has said awful things to me, to where it's like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings if my own dad can't hurt my feelings anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like if someone who was supposed to love me and care for me and raise me to, you know, like, and that's how they talk to me, like, you stupid fucking bitch. That's not, like, once that stops hurting my feelings, a total stranger being like, well, Bessie's fucking ugly, I'd be like, what's that gonna change? I'm not gonna just magically become attracted to you, so what the fuck does it matter?
Right? I'm like...
So, like, the words, like you said, hurt less when you know...
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, and I have the same thing as you. Like, if my best friend came to me and was like, Bessie, you doing this, like, really hurt my feelings or is fucked up, I would feel hurt because I'm like, well, I care about you. So your opinion matters to me, but a stranger's opinion or someone I don't respect, I'm like, that holds nothing and it doesn't affect me. Or a lot of strangers' words for people still affect them.
Yeah.
But for people like you and I who have been kind of, what is that word that starts with a B? Not battered, but like berated with words so young, you're just like, you can either go either way. And me and you have clearly kind of been like, all right, well, that doesn't hurt my feelings. What else? Ooh, that's so original, you know? Like,
yeah. You know,
like, it's things like that that become our tools to, like, deflect when some people are the opposite and they kind of had never had anything bad said to them, which is good, but it's also not realistic because someone's always going to have a negative opinion about you. We just happened to get it so much we were like, well, what else are you gonna say?
I do think, to me though, I am very envious of those people because it works for like an environment in the show where every day is survival.
That's true.
And whenever you grow up and every day is survival.
And you don't even know it. Well, in a sense where like your body doesn't know any different. In that sense. Like, you know you're surviving, but it's normal to you, like you said.
I remember... Which
becomes their everyday normal, too, in this world, where even if you don't come from something traumatic and you get stuck in it, like, I always picture my mom. Like, I don't think she had the greatest childhood, but being with someone like my dad for so long, that toxic that he puts out there, you become it. So I've seen my mom be less patient, more edgy, more fucking rude for like no reason, and I always just step back and I'm like, are you okay? Which obviously I know the environment she's in, but I'm kind of like checking her and like hey, you don't have to act like this towards me, like I'm not the one attacking you, but I get why you feel like you have to, because that's all you know. So even 20, 40 years down the line, people still adapt and change to survive a constant environment they've been in forever. But that's how slowly it gets to you. It's not an overnight thing.
Do you think that part of that is also could be the tribal nature of human beings, that if you're always with someone who's like that, you
become it?
Yeah, you may think that, oh, that's how I should act. That's what's socially acceptable. That's almost what's socially expected is to me to have these reactions.
I think so.
And, you know, that's just how I'm dealing with it. And then if you don't know any better and you go out into the world and start having those reactions to people.
And that's what I've told people. Like, even in my own relationships, you know, I was with an addict. I was always on the defense. I was ready for an attack. And then I left him. I still was kind of like that with my partner now, where I was like, well, why am I treating him this way when he's not treating me that way? But it's just... It's literally your nervous system rewires itself, and I don't think people get how deep and forever that is if you don't re-regulate yourself. And so yes, exactly like you said, you just become that because you think that's what you have to do, but then outside of that environment, you're like, oh fuck, how do I exist now when you're taken out of it?
Yeah, I remember, you know, an instance of that kind of popped into my head is like, I didn't really have friends until I was like in junior high, really. And I remember it was like when I started playing football and stuff, and I'd be, you know, smacking the crap out of like you know buddies and people on the team and stuff. And I remember I was like getting a ride home, and I like dropping this dude off, and I like bashed this dude who into the van, and he was my grandpa. I was like, why would you do that? And I was like, what do you mean?
Right.
And he was like, why would you do that? And it turns out that like they thought I was like a bully, but all I knew was like
Physical.
like that's all my family's ever done. My brothers, they smack me around. My dad smacks me around. Like that's what we do. Is that not what? And then I had to be like, is that not what people do?
Yeah, because you don't know.
Yeah, and then they were like, no, you don't ever do that. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit.
Yeah, you're just like taken back. You're like, well, how was I supposed to know any different?
Yeah, and and then you feel like embarrassed and bad, and then
course.
you're just like, but then that's you have to
Yeah.
re-regulate, and that's not.
Yeah. Well, it's even like obviously a little less extreme, but like Ozzy and Levi. When Levi leaves her, or she's the robot's gone, she's kind of like, what the fuck do I do now? And you're in a state of like shock, but you're still having to survive. So it's like, what's your next coping gonna be? And for her, it was like you said, fighting and being like, I'm gonna fucking get the ship fixed, and I'm gonna fucking go back. And then she has all these other obstacles that she's not even being able to do all these things, but your brain is just like, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to like keep surviving? And so that's why I don't get how people really don't understand that, well, why didn't you just leave? Or, oh, you're out of it now, it should be all good. It's like the damage of that inside that you don't see is deeply rooted into your system on how you survive.
Yeah, it's like you have been trained to do this way. Like, I know I 100% have a problem like in committed relationships because I'm like, when you gonna use that?
Yep.
When's that gonna come up again?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can trust that. You know what I mean? And it's like
affects every aspect of your life.
Yeah, and I have to like always take a second and be like, no, they don't think like that.
Yeah.
They're not planning
right
on or scheming to do
yes.
something that
fucks you over.
Yeah, that fucks me over or gonna hurt me or something like that. And it's like that's not the way normal people think.
Yeah. Or like I'll have people ask me, or like clients who come from a very privileged, nice home life or childhood, really. They'll be like, well, Bessie, like if I open up to them about stuff and they're like, well, you seem okay, like you got out type, kind of like perspective. And I'm just like, well, one, I did have a mother who wasn't abusive or an addict, so that helps for sure.
You have a touchstone
exactly
of normalcy.
But I personally think if I didn't like really choose to like leave my last relationship, start therapy, things of that nature, and just like really recognize I can't suppress all that, and it's all over because I don't live at home anymore, like that shit follows you. And I think I wouldn't be as good as I am if I really didn't kind of do that work. But if it wasn't for my mom, and I try to tell her all the time to like really give herself credit for raising me, because if she would have left and like ran off and like left me with my dad, or if she, instead of coping in a healthy way, like just keeping her faith and hope, and she went to like drugs and alcohol too, I would have been fucked. And I know people get out of those things, but it's way harder, and it's way less common. That's like the 1% of people you hear, both addicts or abusive parents, and they get out and they're okay. That's so rare. So it's crazy again that nobody has enough perspective or empathy to be like, oh, that was your environment, that makes sense.
Right.
It's just like, you should just be 18, have all those tools, and figure it out. And it's just like, I don't even have a tool belt.
Right.
Where am I gonna put these motherfucking tools at?
It's like,
and that's why the foster system doesn't work. When you're in the system with no family who actually cared for you, you're still not getting those tools.
It's like if you took, from one of those the secluded like South American island tribes.
Yeah.
And it's like if you took one of those people and gave them an iPhone,
Yeah.
and then came back a year later and been like, "Where's your car? Where's your house? Where's
Where's
you
your
good?
modern technology?
Yeah,
Your
where's your
hospitals?
job? You doing good, right?" And they're like,
What?
"All I knew how to. I've been just fishing,
Yeah.
and hunting and
That little thing would mean nothing to them.
right." And it's like, you didn't tell me jack,
Yeah.
and it's like
You didn't teach me anything.
this was the tool belt that I got. You
No tools in it.
yeah, like
Just a belt.
this is all I know how to do.
Yeah. This is for a belt I don't have pants for.
Yeah,
And tools I don't have to put in the belt.
yeah, like I only know how to do this. You
Mhm.
put me in this environment. I may not die, but
Right. How much am I really thriving?
yeah, don't
Or learning.
You wouldn't expect that person to,
Have their shit together.
yeah, then be like, "Oh, look,
Have a good job and a
yeah, right.
home and a
He's trading Fortune 500 companies. That's crazy." You'd be like, "No shit, he didn't die yet?
yeah.
That's good for him." Wow, no one thought he was going to do it.
Our environments really push us psychologically and physically to what we will or will not succumb to. Subconsciously and like choice. And I don't know, this show just was a beautiful representation of different perspectives and experiences in a new environment.
But it's and they still managed to connect it so much.
Yeah.
This show was like, I don't know. I wish I'd go to therapy. I'd love to talk to a therapist about it, or just like, I'd love to talk to a actual, like, is it psychiatrists that are like actual brain full doctor scientists?
No, psychologists are just, they can prescribe you drugs where a therapist cannot.
That's so yeah, but therapists are the one who like talk you through stuff. Psychologists are the one who are like
Medicate
their
you.
study of the brain.
I guess, yeah, so they can medicate
Yeah.
you. So the imbalance is chemically, yeah.
I would love to talk to like a psychologist about this show, like how they feel,
like their reaction to how
How-
they all adapted.
yeah, and in this world's effect on. Because like seeing stuff in this was giving me legit like anxiety and panic and being like,
because you're like, fuck.
I don't know how they're getting me to feel this way when it's just a weird crab monster, But like,
Yeah, because
but I felt like I
yeah.
felt this before, what they seem to be going through.
Because the show gives you the like relationship between, like you said, creatures or planet and people and AI, like with Levi. And I even think we see that a lot now where like we're also disconnected, but also some people are connected with so many people online they've never met. So even like AI and the internet gives you this relationship that we used to not have with each other, where you can not leave a room or a house and you have friends all over the world. So that's still like a companionship we rely on nowadays, of like being accessible to call, see pictures of, and I don't think a lot of people would survive not having that when they've made their whole world kind of online for their relationships or their coping mechanism to
Yeah.
like escape, or like you said, video games and all of that is still like a human way of adapting to like technology and that type of tool we use for like surviving with each other. It's like a community we have now.
Yeah. It sucks is there's still people who like that's their community, but they're still finding abuse in that.
Of yeah.
And they just like people, there's people getting like reamed and all this stuff in whatever. I know back in the day it was like chat rooms. I don't haven't really, but you'd be like, why don't you just? You could say the same thing of like, why didn't you just like go to a different group or like
Right.
find a different group of people to play with or do this or do that, or why didn't you leave the bad relationship? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, this is like you don't understand. Whenever you form any like connection, cutting it is really hard.
It's like almost impossible.
Yeah, and that's how you feel. Whether you're getting like beaten down or not.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, I think there's part of our brain that is like, oh, I'm still surviving.
Well, and
And
it's familiar.
yeah,
And we don't like things that are not familiar, so even when it's bad, it's all we know. So we're like, well, at least it's something I know.
Yeah.
And that gives us peace in a weird way.
and I'm not dead or dying.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's okay.
yeah,
You know?
it's fine not dying.
Right.
And I think that like whenever you go into that survival mode, which like these people are at and a lot of people are at all
Yeah,
the time,
All the time.
their primary focus is just survival.
Yeah. The
And
next
through
day.
whatever means necessary. And if that means
Selling yourself or doing drugs
or whatever horribleness you're dealing with,
yeah.
all you care about is surviving. So as long as that's what you're getting,
It doesn't matter what outcome it is. So do
And-
you think would you say in the show and in real life kind of like becoming one with nature, air quotes if nobody's watching this, but you know, like becoming one with nature, do you think the show suggests that it's inevitable, or is it a choice to like become one with your environment?
I think it's
And like how that goes to real life, like do you think it's inevitable, or do we have a choice in that matter?
I think we do have a choice, but it's even whenever becoming one with your environment may not be the best thing to do,
Right.
it's still so much of a harder path to go against,
Yeah.
you know, conforming to nature.
Yeah.
Because whether you're like conforming to, said a kid who's conforming to a bad household
Yeah.
to survive, or, you know, conforming to a dangerous environment, you know, if you're stranded on an island, it's a lot, you know, you're going to have a much easier time just like sleeping under a bluff, trying to find a coconut, catching a fish,
Yeah.
you know, versus actually chopping down trees, burning everything to make a
Right.
signal fire, you know, ruining everything you have for a chance to get out.
Yeah.
That may or may not work.
Right.
And I think that, yeah, you can go against the nature that's there and you might make it out.
Yeah.
But
Less likely.
yeah, and but it's the difference between having you might overcoming it versus you could probably just live with it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long you could live with
Because
it.
I also feel like the people that overcome it, you are now then faced with like a lot of other challenges. Like now you have nobody, and you're kind of like reforming yourself and who is your company that you keep around you, and that's hard to do too.
Yeah.
Like, and most people can't do that. Even like shitty family members you have, sometimes you're still like kind of enabling the relationship a little bit because you, I don't know if it's like animalistic or what the word would be, but you still feel like you have to have them in your life because that's what you're supposed to do, whether it's society pushing that or because they're related to you. Like, we still tolerate them even if we're like, okay, you're at a distance, but it's hard to like really disconnect from all of it. It's like,
I think
it's like wiping a slate of something all you know. It's hard to do. It's still in you.
I think a part of that is also society being, oh, you should, you know, forgive,
Yeah.
and even if you don't fully reconnect, like you should be the bigger person. And
Right. Like, why me?
yeah,
I'm not the one who did the shit.
yeah, being like, oh, you know, like if maybe you're older and your abusers are now much older too, whoever they may be, and maybe their family, and it's society kind of tells you like, oh, you shouldn't really, they're gonna probably be gone soon, they're not gonna be that,
People
they're not
all
your
the time
problem
are
anymore.
like that. Well, that's still your dad. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm still his daughter. And so where is his accountability on all of that? But I should be the bigger person.
Yeah,
Like, why?
yeah,
Why
well,
do they deserve that to still shit on me? You know?
that's the thing is, I think you're right, but I think a lot of like
Yeah.
society tells us
Of
something
course.
different.
Yeah.
And
You only get one dad. I'm like, and? That he shouldn't have treated me that way. You know?
right, which, you know, I think kind of bullshit, because like
Yeah.
I didn't have a mom,
Right.
but I had a nana until I was like 13.
Yeah.
I had ma
Mm-hmm.
from, you know, whenever I was like
High school.
21, so you know, or yeah, I think like 20.
Okay. Almost 30
Yeah, so for like, the same, for pretty much like the same
amount.
11 years for each person. And,
Mhm.
those were the people who I looked to as role models.
Yeah.
Like,
You chose to pick those people as your role model.
yeah. And not only that, but they actually chose, like my Nana, maybe, she didn't have to be caring and
That's
loving.
true.
She didn't take us in and stuff. A lot of my other grandma didn't do that.
Right.
But like, especially like Ma, she didn't have to do any of the stuff she did. She didn't have to take me in at all or do any of that stuff. I was just, especially at the time,
Yeah.
I didn't know even her grandson that well.
Right.
He was, Sebastian. He was Alex's friend.
Right.
And I didn't know him all that well. I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
She just
Took you in.
Yeah, and
some people are just able to do that.
yeah. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't know if my heart works that way.
Yeah.
Maybe those kind of people are.
I think so. Again, I think no matter our environment, there's still, that good people like Grandma Will. That is what she became, like the goodness she has in her, where some people can't balance the two of like being realistic and succumbing to the shittiness and then only being shitty,
Yeah. Anyway, but to bring it back to the show,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a little bit about
Mhm.
of how you felt, because spoiler, if you didn't know that already, they don't make it
Off the planet.
Yeah, off the planet. And the one person who tries to escape and tries to like take advantage of hostile environment succumbs to the environment, and it's like gets destroyed,
Yeah.
dies, doesn't make it out, has the worst time. The people who do make it out, again, fucking Cayman makes it through,
Which
bullshit.
is crazy.
Poor shit. And I get it. They want to teach forgiveness and coming out of bad thing. That dude sucked.
He did suck.
But a question that it made me ask is like, how do you feel like this environment has now changed their relationships? And
With each other?
not just each other, but also the world. And then by extension, how do you think our environments change how we
See the world.
okay. Go into relationships?
Yeah.
And it was like, I know that you famously, world famously, are in a healthy, stable, good relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I still don't know if I could do.
Mm-hmm. You could.
And but no, seriously, and I'm like, but I know we came from somewhat similar environments, but you, and just like this, like they seem to be, some of them are kind of okay, some of them are not.
I think in general with the show and real life, I think that ending of them not getting off the planet and that little piece of their ship getting destroyed, I think you have to get to a place mentally where you accept this is now my environment. And so I think in the show, just like with Levi kind of getting re-put together with the environment, has the new perspective of like, I can live, I can survive this, we can become a community. And so that's how you survive, is someone's learning a lot about this, someone's doing this. Everyone kind of has their specialty, and I think that is how you cope and survive. So I think in the show, which I saw everyone online being like, what the fuck, there's no second season. I'm like, I don't think we need that. I liked the ending, because I think we kind of know they're gonna survive together. Whether that just means them and then they die off, they're still surviving. They're not like, we need to repopulate this planet. No,
Yeah,
no, we're just gonna live
we need
here.
to take it.
Yeah. And I think from a real person perspective, sorry,
Yeah, you're
guys.
one of those.
A real person. Your question was
I was how
for me
yeah.
in the outside world was what again?
How did like
My perspective change?
overcoming or accepting
Yeah.
your previous hostile environment? How do you think that affected your ability to
Okay.
form relationships? But now also, you like to me, I think that it has my experience has negatively impacted my form those kind of relationships. Did you feel that way before you were in the relationship you're in right now, or do you feel like you didn't really have that issue and just now you're just happy, now you're just
I think I've always been a little jaded, and I still am with like people who didn't have it kind of hard. I'm just like, you weren't, cooked enough to have some like perspective and empathy for things that aren't so like good, or like people who had it different than you. So I think I'll always kind of have a little bit of a jaded judgment
like
of people who like don't know what it's like to like go through hard shit, like really know, not like, oh, I totally get it. Like it's different being empathetic, and there's different like experiencing it. And
you know what suffering
yeah,
is.
exactly.
Cool.
So I think with that perspective, I'll always be a little jaded. But I think if anything, my environment made me more empathetic. To be like, well, I don't want to cause that type of pain onto other people in the environment I had, so let me help you or save you, which is what I kind of did with my ex. Like, oh, I can just fix you and save you. But you can't do that. So I also had to kind of get rid of that. So I don't think I always would have had this good, healthy, thriving relationship and life. If, I don't know, there's something about, I don't know if it was me or just our generation of just being like, I'm kind of tired of all of us living like this. It's got to be better.
Yeah.
Like if other people have it better, it's got to be better. So I think, yeah, I'm still judgmental and jaded in those ways. In my perspective of like, yeah, well, you don't really know, so like, I don't really want to fucking hear it,
Yeah.
But also like being empathetic in how someone can turn out in an environment, whether good or bad. Does that answer your question, you feel?
Yeah, I think
A
so.
little bit?
A little bit. As much as I would, unless I pressed about like actual things that we probably wouldn't want to know, that we wouldn't talk about on the show because of like names and people and stuff like that.
I mean, I can genuinely say, even from my perspective of a relationship with you and our friendship and seeing you and your brother's relationship and friendships you guys have together, I know you think you probably couldn't have like a healthy relationship, but I think when you feel something really good you've never felt before, you keep wanting that. And you'll just have to learn and hear how to feel like you deserve it.
Yeah.
Because I had someone ask me something like, when you got with your partner and his family's so loving and amazing, and how that felt not coming from that, like when did it finally kind of like become okay to be around it? I mean, it took a couple years of me being like, well, families that love each other, this makes me uncomfortable.
Dude,
oh, you wanna
same.
hug me and kiss me on the head? Wow, my own dad doesn't do that. So it is uncomfortable because it's not familiar. And I had to get to a point where I was like, instead of being judgmental and being like, I never had that, it'll never be like that for me and my family, I really had to get to a point of like, but I still deserve love and to be treated that way, even if it's not my family. So I think the way you do that with your friends, you can't do it with a partner. It's just a different feeling you show up for of like, no, it's not my family, and maybe it won't be mine forever, but I still deserve a great feeling of love or friendship or whatever that might look like. I can see you have that, or else you wouldn't have, like, my dad had has no friends. He has no good relationships. So if you were really that, I think, jaded or fucked up inside, it would bleed in your everyday life, and it doesn't seem to do that.
That's...
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's, a little comfort.
Yeah, it'll be hard and uncomfortable, but it's, deep down, you deserve that shit. That's why you have a great relationship with your brother and Sebastian and all your Chewy and your best friend. Like, you wouldn't have that if deep down you didn't feel like you deserved it.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't stick around for you if they didn't feel like you reciprocated that.
I do. It is, you did, like, man, you cut right through with that one line, because I was like, man, I remember, like, whenever, like month 2 into Vietnam of your first trip, that was like 3 months, and they were like, oh, they want to, and I was like, at my first time, I brought a lot of money to, like, pay as much of my. They're like, oh no, they're gonna do it. I was like, why would they? And I would literally,
you're like, why would they want from me? What are they gonna say? Yeah.
Yeah. I literally asked Special, I was like, why would he do that?
Yeah.
And,
when people are nice to me, I'm like, why are you being nice? Because my mom just taught me, people being nice to you, they might want something from you, or they might abuse or take advantage of it. So I'm always like, what the fuck? So
exactly.
We're like that. We're gonna be like that still.
And I was so like, no, why?
Yeah.
Like, no, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
They're like, no, they just, and then and Sebastian would like make fun of me, like, they like you.
Yeah.
Like, I like motherfuckers too. I ain't.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
But then that's the thing is, at first, I had the perspective that I was like, oh, why?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all I knew was like, in my head, I'm like, the only person who has ever done anything nice to me that did from it or because of it or wasn't like a lead into something else was like my grandpa, my nana, and my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I ain't one of those 3. But then I didn't realize it was a problem until it kept happening. And then by like, after that, it was like, trip 2 kept happening. I'm going to see family who live in Texas, up in like Dallas, and seeing all these people. They're like happy to see me, and I'm like, what's wrong with these people?
Yeah.
And I would joke about it to Sebastian. I'd be like, he'd be like, hey, we're gonna go see blah blah blah. We're gonna take a trip up to Dallas. They really want you to go. And I'd be like, that's nice of you to come on. And then he'd be like, no, they really want to see you. And then he looks at you like, oh, you.
Yeah.
I don't have this severe structure. And then he's just like, what? No, they missed you. And I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
Are you sure? And then I was like, all right, I'll go. I guess for whatever reason, I'll believe you. And then that's, but then it reaches a point where you said that you accepted and was like, oh, I
deserve this.
That's not what happens in my head, and I don't think I've gotten there yet.
That's okay.
Because in my head, I'm just like, no, that's just how these specific people are.
Yeah.
These specific people, for some reason, actually love their family and actually care about other people because they're made of gold. They're better than us and the rest of people. And I can, like, saying that out loud, I can reasonably look and say, no, that's probably what like the gist of most people are, and you just came from like a bad way. But that doesn't mean I believe it. And
but I still think subconsciously, you are a great friend in a friendship, and you deserve that back. And your friends give that to you. So
yeah,
subconsciously, you're still thinking, I deserve this, but it's still hard to, like, accept.
Yeah.
Which I get. I still feel that way when Lewis's parents do or say something, and I'm still like, it's okay. But I'm also like, like, it'll always kind of be there.
Yeah.
But I think subconsciously, we know we deserve that. And I think that's what sucks with society, and clearly lack of empathy. But even throw all that aside, you don't like build a confident kid who knows they're deserving of nice things like that, you'll never like attach yourself to it because it will feel so foreign. You know, like
Yeah.
that's why we stay in shitty relationships or keep shitty people in our life, is because we don't
We don't think you can do any better.
exactly. And that's what the deep meaning really is we think we don't deserve anything more because this is all we've ever gotten, so like why would it be better?
Yeah.
If that's all we've ever gotten in the first place, we clearly didn't deserve it from the beginning, when that's not the case.
Yeah, I have to tell myself that because I think back on like, you know, shittier relationships I've been in the past where I'm
Yeah.
like, you know, like, should I stay?
Right. So
Not
it's
really
like a battle with yourself.
Yeah, like, you know, could I have done any better?
Right.
Could.
Yeah.
Even now, it's like,
Yeah.
is there anyone else? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I'm just like, man, no.
No, you should never settle. Not for friendships, not for relationships, not for anything. Because I felt that way leaving my ex. I was just like, what's gonna happen? If he kills himself, will it be my fault? Could I have tried harder? What did I not try hard enough? Should I have not said XYZ? But deep down, I was like, I don't want to deal with this shit. This shit is fucking stupid. It's not actually my problem, and I'm
Yeah.
making it my problem. But again, we wanted someone to help or save us. So we do that to other people of like, well, I should stick it out longer. But that's just us projecting on what we would do in that person's perspective. So it's really just us.
Yeah,
still.
like, oh, I deserved this whenever
Yeah.
I was having,
Yeah.
whenever I was hurting. That's what I should have gotten.
So I'll give it,
Yeah, so-
hoping someone gives it return what they
Yeah.
take. Yeah, so we all just project our goodness on other people who don't deserve it.
Then you find someone who gives it to you.
Exactly.
And
And
then
then you're like,
Okay.
what do you want from me then, huh?
Right. To bring it back to the show, and the show, like, actually, you know, whenever like Levi starts becoming
Yeah.
in unison with the
Which I
planet and
loved.
the ecosystem, and is like, oh no, it cares about
Yeah.
everything.
Hmm.
It'll
take care of you
if you let it.
if you let it.
And then
And that's the key word, if you let it.
yeah.
You
And-
keep fighting it, you'll just die.
Yeah, you'll
or
just
suffer.
Eventually they may not stop caring, but will go, oh, this is a problem and it's not my problem. It's not worth it."
Exactly. Yeah.
You could have let it go,
Mhm.
like just
Yeah.
let it happen. But
Mm-hmm. I think overall, the Scavengers Reign explores how extreme environments push people to their limits, not only physically, but psychologically, and how your environment changes you subconsciously or making that conscious choice. So, it's beautiful.
yeah,
I think in everything it was trying to portray, it was so beautifully done. And if you listen to this whole fucking episode and you haven't fucking watched it, you need to go fucking turn it on right now, okay?
right. And then
It's on HBO, okay?
I think that's also what's so good about it is like we could tell you the whole plot of the show.
It doesn't do it justice.
It doesn't
It
matter.
makes you actually feel something.
Yeah, it doesn't. Knowing the plot or what happens, because realistically, like if you were to dial this down of what happens, not a lot happens.
No.
But it's like the visuals and the experience and how they convey that through this animation. It's like that's what you're really
That's what's touching, yeah.
getting.
That's
like-
what makes you feel and think all these things we just talked about. And the fact that the show can do that and relate so much into our real life and experiences, that's what you watch shit for, you
yeah,
know?
that's what you like.
You want just like an action movie, yeah, go watch Alien vs. Predator, that's what you'll get. But you want something that really...
Maybe watch a better action movie.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, this was amazing, and
Yeah.
I loved it, and I hope you guys got a lot out of
Yeah,
either the show or at least the perspectives we gave you of us watching it, you know?
and the creators are now doing a new show, which
Ooh,
we will probably be doing an episode on in the
is
future.
it Common Side Effects?
It is Common Side
Oh,
Effects.
I love that show! It was
I
so good. So yes, we will be doing that, so make sure y'all watch Common Side Effects too, because we'll do that eventually.
yeah, not right now. Right now, if you want to watch the to get ready for our next episode, it
Mm.
will actually be over the think it's 98, 1999 film.
It's 89.
89? Damn.
We'll make sure that's correct in the next one.
But it's called Falling Down
Yeah.
with Michael Douglas.
So remember to always cope with good things, no matter what you're going through in life, if you can. What is our outro again?
Thank you for coping with us. Thank you for.
So let's redo that.
Yeah.
So thanks for coping with us. Join us next time on Falling Down.
Yep. Check us out on Patreon, YouTube, podcast services around the globe, social media platforms including Instagram, TikTok. Is there another one?
Nope.
Not another one.
Share us, like
Yeah.
us, all that free stuff. Comment.
Check us out on Patreon if you can. Give us a couple bucks.
It wouldn't hurt.
It wouldn't hurt. I'm so poor. And I'd really love to get a 4K camera to shoot these videos with.
Wow, 4K. So now we really need an Amazon wish list.
Oh, is that a thing?
That is a thing.
Shit.
A lot of OnlyFans people do it, so people will buy shit that they want to see.
Girl, I'll shake it for a 4K camera.
That's... On that note, be safe.
Bye.
Bye.